Welcome to Happily Ever Aftermath.
The podcast where we discuss relationships in movies and our relationships with them.
I'm Polina Grunbaum.
And I'm Diana Rojek-Sconard.
Hello, Diana.
Hi, Polina.
How are you doing today?
I'm in a glass cage of emotion right now.
That's fair.
Well, okay, thanks. Mainly it's because we are at the last movie for our Cusack run.
How do you feel about that? What are your feelings?
Well, that's the sadness of the glass cage of emotion. Mm-hmm. But the happiness over exuberance is completely overriding it.
Oh, good.
Because we have a fabulous guest. I'm sorry for the sadness of being at the end of our Cusack run, but this is going to be amazing.
No, it's the apex of our Cusack run.
Don't use big words on me.
It's a short word. It only has 4 letters.
We have Kelly from Throwback Bookstack talking Grosse Pointe Blank with us.
Yes, you do.
Yes,
We do.
we do.
And think of it this way. It's not that you're ending a Cusack run. It's that you're preparing for the next Cusack run.
It's true, actually.
Oh.
This is we still have miles to go before we.
His filmography is very long.
It's true.
It really is, and we're all happy about the future movies. Actually, let's just be happy about this movie right now.
Yeah,
right
let's
now.
be in the present.
The presentness.
The present of 1997.
Thank you for that.
Which is about the past of 1986.
I'm so confused right now. All right, we'll just do it the best we can then. So 1997, Grosse Pointe Blank. After assassin Martin Blank, John Cusack, has trouble focusing on his work, resulting in a failed assignment, he returns to his hometown, Grosse Pointe, Michigan, for his 10-year high school reunion. There, he meets Debbie Newberry, Minnie Driver, an old girlfriend that he stood up for the prom. Martin's secretary, Joan Cusack, sets up a hit for him while he is in town, but Martin starts to reconsider his life. Meanwhile, he is hounded by an unstable rival hitman, grocer, Dan Aykroyd. I agree with a lot of this, especially the unstable rival part in Dan Aykroyd's character, but I wouldn't say that Martin's first, it was a botched. It wasn't a botched job, dang it, but okay, let's just argue it about things that matter.
He did the best he could with what he had. But extenuating circumstances, introduced another player into the mix, and it screwed up his carefully laid plan.
Well, his plan was shoot the guy on the bike, and he shot the guy on the bike.
Yes.
He got his job done.
He did. Yeah. So he got his job done, and in fact, the whole thing was like, our Joan Cusack, our employers are very unhappy. He's like,
I did the job.
Yeah, I know exactly, but unfortunately, unstable Dan Aykroyd came in and shot the actual target of the person that he was supposed to kill for the bike messenger to not hit. So romance.
So romance. Know that there's also another murder before the romance.
That's actually an excellent point. So I think before we get into all of the bodies that accumulate in this movie, you chose this movie.
I did.
In fact, I will take you back to an earlier time. I meet you for the first time, and we're at a podcast meetup. It was very cool meeting you for the first time. And I tell you, we're on a Cusack run. And you're like, oh, you have to do Grosse Pointe Blank. And I'm like, we've already planned our Cusack run. So I'm going to write down your information right now. And we will have you back. And so it happened.
Yeah. So we just needed another excuse, and you gave us one. So thank you.
And the question then becomes, you said Grosse Pointe Blank. Tell me why.
Because this, of all of John Cusack's romance movies, this is the one that is the romance for me. They made a romance movie for me. The thing I love about John Cusack is I feel like he has a film for every different point in your life. He's one of those guys that has that complete filmography. Yeah. And so when I was in high school, I watched Say Anything. I watched Better Off Dead. And then I got to college and everyone was like, you have to watch High Fidelity. You have to. And I was like, okay. And I watched it and I was like, this is a very good movie. I am not emotionally connecting to it at all.
Got it.
I'd heard about Grosse Pointe Blank, but I was like, a movie about a hitman, that's not really my thing. I'm not really into shootouts.
Yep.
And then I just happened to watch it and went, oh, they made this movie for me. This is all the things that I care about with love. Oh, good.
We're going to have to get you to break that down a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's a reason I'm single in my mid-30s, and I feel like this describes it.
So when did you see the movie?
I think I saw it my second or third year of college. Like it was something where, back when Netflix was DVDs that got sent to you.
Still does, but we just don't talk about it.
That was the only form of Netflix was, getting DVDs sent to your dorm room. So I was going through multiple John Cusacks because I was on my own John Cusack run. So I was like, all right, let's do Better Off Dead. Let's do One Crazy Summer. Like, let's do The Sure Thing. Let's get through all of them. I've never seen Grosse Pointe Blank. I guess I might as well do that as long as I, getting 2 DVDs at a time. I'll get that one too.
Hey, big spender.
And then I fell in love. You just don't know. Like, you never knew what you wanted to watch. You had to have 2, so you'd have the options.
I really felt like the 2. Yeah, I think started with a 1, but I felt like the 2 was really key to the whole operation.
Yeah.
You fell in love. I have an important question.
Yes.
Was it the suits?
The suits were a factor. He looks very good in the suits.
He really does. You wouldn't expect this, but he really does.
I would expect it, but go on.
Really?
It's also, the way he looks like this haunting specter in them against everyone else in the town.
That is an excellent description.
He looks at once pink and pale in a really sexy way. It's very strange.
Haunting
specter.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds really
talk
cool.
more.
But it's also there's a chemistry between him and Minnie Driver, and there's just this fucked up nature to the romance that I'm like, yes, I am here for this. This is what I am here for.
So those of you who have not had the absolute pleasure of seeing this movie, just as we described, he is a hitman. He comes back after his 10-year reunion. Pivoting off of the suits thing, Minnie Driver wears, it's on the cover, she wears this lime green top, and she is working it.
Yeah.
And I think I owned a lime green top. I'm wondering if I thought I could do that because of this movie.
It shouldn't look good on anyone, but then Minnie Driver's like, everything looks good on me.
It's like kaboom.
I didn't realize until I saw the second film, I saw it the second time. But I was like, so they end up going to the high school reunion, the 10-year high school reunion, and he picks her up, and he's wearing just yet another black suit because he wears like a black suit, black shirt, black tie, gangster,
Well, professional.
typical 90s, yeah. Well, like you're not going to show up to like a desk job wearing that outfit.
Well, now you can, but in 97.
Mortician.
No, I'm saying like no one would. Like, that would be strange.
Oh, I didn't follow that.
Yeah.
Go on.
So, but anyway, so he's like, he's wearing that, and she's actually wearing like a black suit to the reunion, just not with this really, really bright T-shirt, which she looks amazing in.
Yeah. She does. And in fact, she even commented that on the way in, where they're going up the stairs, I should have worn a skirt. I should have brought my gun. What? This should be fun.
Yeah.
But I've had that thing. I should have worn a skirt.
Yeah.
No, to your high school reunion, no. You need to be able to run and move as quickly as possible. Like, it's all about survival.
Well, that was the thing, is I was like, yes, and then I realized she was wearing heels, and I was like, oh, girl, I hope there's a pair of flats in that bag. Slip-on sneakers, because you're going to have to run.
I don't think there was...
I didn't go to my high school.
I didn't go to my high school reunion either.
My high school reunion got kind of canceled, where there weren't enough ticket sales to pay for the venue.
That's hysterical.
Well, not for the people who organized it, but eventually it got canceled and moved to the hometown local pizza parlor, where we just kind of occupied the back area.
Oh, see, that seems more comfortable.
That seems, my high school reunion, they ended up sort of not having one for kind of similar reasons, but so the students kind of organized their own at a local bar.
Yeah.
I did not choose to attend.
And it has to be like...
I just would have to fly across the country, so it was like...
That's a factor. Well, this movie and Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion, I was under the impression when I was watching these, like, this is what a reunion's going to be. And so I was looking forward to that kind of nice venue with the, the bars and the dancing and everything like that. So when it didn't turn out that way, I was mildly disappointed, but then I realized, oh, that's okay. I mean, I'm with the people that I want to be around, so...
You didn't have to, take a body at your reunion and throw it in an incinerator.
I did, but it was...
You threw in the pizza oven?
But she doesn't like to talk about that because, the statute of limitations on murder is forever. Forever.
If you're listening to this podcast and you're a cop, you're legally required to tell us.
Before you arrest.
That's how the law works, right? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so you actually got to see it on a DVD.
So you got your DVD.
Disc
Oh, yes.
Central. And then what happened next?
Did you watch it once, twice, 3 times?
A lady.
I watched it probably twice when I had it then, and now I watch it basically like every couple years.
Oh, okay.
And I relate to it differently as time goes on, because at the time I was like just out of high school, and the more out of time of high school I get, the more I'm like, yeah, I would not go to my high school reunion. Oh no. And I also deeply appreciate sort of more and more him vanishing.
Right.
Like, I think that I find him very relatable. I think there was a part of me when I was, 20 and watching this that was like, oh, hopefully I can use my loose moral compass and sort of...
Wait, I have one of those too.
I can use my loose morality to just sort of somehow turn that into money. That sounds great.
I mean...
Have you?
No, not at all.
Well, you went to college. He himself said he just joined the army instead. So you didn't have the exact, pathway. So that's okay. I mean, we can't all parallel John Cusack in all aspects.
Particular movie, yeah.
Oh, in this movie, yeah. I mean, any chance you paralleled him in different movies and didn't realize it?
I cannot ski. So no.
Oh, I can't see it either. Maybe I have too. Huh.
Anything else on the Cusack oeuvre that this is the one you bonded with the hardest?
Yeah, and even like the more of his movies I've seen over time, this is still the one that I go back to.
Yeah. No, it's been a while since I have watched this movie, and I was really curious. I knew certain parts of it are again, just imprinted onto my memory. So I'll give you my experience with it. I definitely owned the VHS copy because I was accumulating my Cusack collection as one does when
Your trove.
It's like the Criterion collection, but it's the Cusack collection.
Well, yeah, I mean, the spines have his little head here, and here, and then I get irritated when there's a line of Cusack heads at the bottom, and then there's one at the top. I'm like,
oh, yeah. Or they're like one of them looks in the left, like there's 3 to the left, they look to the left, and then 2 to the right.
What's nice is that with the VHS, you could pick which side, and so this one was red, and this one was yellow, and I picked this one, which was really nice. But what's funny is that, okay, listeners that are longtime listeners, take a shot. HBO free preview weekend.
Yes.
This one, I would just hit record. I don't remember what came before it, but this movie got recorded and then I ran out of tape.
Oh no.
So no, it wasn't anticipated because I wanted the movie beforehand, and then it happened to also catch Grosse Pointe Blank. Oh. So that's how it happened. And what was so great is that I love the song "I Can See Clearly Now" by Johnny Nash. You can ask my husband. It is one of my happy songs where I just need a booster. I will belt this out and dance in the kitchen just to feel better because it's just so breezy in the beginning. And Grosse Pointe Blank was where I heard it, so I will always have this image of John Cusack assassinating a bike rider as I'm listening to the song, and that took a while for it to go away. But at the same time, I still think about it because, when it hits a high crescendo, I mean, that's when the bullet hits him. Yeah. So boom, and it's just so good. But love that. I have Joan Cusack just reading a letter in my head as I'm thinking of it, and the tape actually cuts off when he's back in town and Debbie sees him and is kind of like monologuing, and it actually goes with a man who is now walking into my booth. Boom.
Oh,
and that's when the tape would start to rewind.
That is dramatic.
I know.
Yeah.
So
that would be maddening.
And then ultimately I ended up, buying it and watching it like a normal person.
Because you need to know what happens after the man walks into the booth.
Yeah.
This was one of those movies that came out after I never actually saw it until for this podcast. I know. So what's weird about that? So it basically came out. A bunch of people either people weren't interested because they were like, oh, it's kind of a ripoff of 6 other movies, or they were super into it and they went to see it the first minute they could, and then they were like, it's really good, and then you couldn't see it, and then I just never saw it. But it was one of those movies I heard about, people talked about, people are like, it's kind of a cult favorite. So I don't know why. It was just one of those movies that just I just somehow fell into some valley of non-movie goingness for me.
Can I speak on behalf of you, Kelly?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Polina, you're welcome.
I am, yeah. And so this is the first, just kind of shocking because I love Minnie Driver so much, so much. And I obviously love Joan Cusack. And so, this was like a kind of and it was also weird because because I was out of college by the time this, not too far out, but far enough out.
Were
out
you
of college? I mean, it was 97.
Were you in college 10-year reunion time?
Oh, no, my 10-year reunion would have been 2001 because I graduated from high school in 91.
Okay, so close.
Yeah, I don't usually talk about my age, but this I do on this podcast because that's what we talk about. Not age, but just when you saw a movie. So
You can get context.
yeah, so I just so it's just really interesting watching it. One, the first thing that's the music is literally all my favorite things. Like my favorite time was my husband used to be in a ska cover band. He was a trumpet player, and it was awesome. Like just being able to go to a ska show in the regular was great. But but all this music, and I'm like, oh my god. So first off, this music the mid 80s, I probably wasn't quite in high school if I graduated from 91, but I was like, all those songs were not they weren't mainstream top 40 songs. Like in 1986 is when I started getting to what was then called alternative music, because it was still not that easy to find music. And I lived at the time I was living in a college, or I moved to a college town. Mm-hmm. So it was easier. But I was like, oh my God, this was regular music I'm like, why didn't I grow up in Grosse Pointe? This is awesome. Because this is the good 80s music, not the
Oh no, I'm very curious how you might accidentally insult us right now.
Go on. I love all 80s music, but this is my favorite music. I don't love all music. That's a ridiculous statement. There's some absolutely appalling things that happened to music in the 80s, but this music is so fantastic. The fact that so much of it also happens in that 80s ska stuff is the best. And the Under Pressure scene. Oh my God.
So good.
I mean, seriously, I love that song so much. And it's used in this very emotional way. He basically is he's kind of having a crisis of.
Well, the whole movie he's having a crisis.
Yeah, he's having a crisis where he's trying to figure, he's suddenly oh, life has meaning and I can't keep doing this and I need to figure out, what to do with my life next. And this at the high school reunion, a baby gets handed to him.
Yep.
To hold, and by his friend who's everyone thinks being married and having a baby is the end of your freedom, but she's it's great, it's really good. And she says it in such a way, she doesn't go on about it. She just says it with such certainty, and that he's snaps into it, and then he holds this baby and he kind of falls in love, and suddenly, you see him see an entire alternate universe, whether or not he has a baby or not. I think it's just that, suddenly there's this alternate universe that comes up, and the whole time is that soaring chorus of Under Pressure, where he's where they talk about love being this thing that takes you both outside of yourself and inside of yourself, and it's a breakthrough, and it all happens in the end of Under Pressure, which I just think is an amazing song. And that was genius.
I'm going to be Kelly again. You're welcome.
Yeah.
The best gift you can give someone is the gift of Cusack.
Yeah.
I didn't come to this podcast empty-handed.
Yeah, no, you did not.
No. This was a gem of a choice.
Yeah. And you didn't come with weird little hand soaps that now, we have. You came with something good.
Wait, you didn't get the hand soaps? I got some.
Oh, you did?
I did, yeah.
No, it's okay. I don't like hand soaps. I never know what to put them in. Keep in mind,
So it sounds like Polina's having an existential crisis as watching the movie about a gentleman having an existential crisis.
It's the best time to have one.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
Might as well. It's convenient.
Well,
killing two birds with one stone.
The soundtrack of this movie is kind of the best thing to ride through if you're trying to ponder life.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that's some good
music.
music.
I mean, I will say, just to get it out of the way, the first time I saw it, I was I like the movie that it didn't quite fit together for me. I loved the premise, I loved everything, and I was like, this is odd. But actually the second time, it wasn't just because it was odd. I was expecting odd. But I think it didn't quite make, it felt very choppy and tone. But the second time I saw it, I felt like somehow I'd unlocked some sort of like it stopped being atonal for me somehow.
There's definitely two different films that decided to just hang out together.
Yes, exactly. And I was like finding that part sort of jarring, and I didn't understand. And then I thought, oh, like it's trying to be this, this thing of the, in the inward looking gangster who's having a morality crisis, which was like, there was a lot of that at the time.
Actually, I don't know if I don't think that came until, when did The Sopranos get started?
Well, but what about there's all those, I don't know, this was like after Pulp Fiction and after some other movies. I felt like there's just I don't know. I just felt like that was maybe because there's so many more of those since.
Well, speaking of, I think that's the case though. Well,
yeah.
If you want to talk about,
but I think it was
choppy
around
movie
then. Yeah.
I wouldn't.
I mean, Pulp Fiction's 1994, but
no, I know that. I'm just thinking but his existential crisis in that movie, that's a movie that has a lot going on besides just the Samuel L. Jackson having an existential crisis.
But I just feel like there's, I don't know, but the second time I was like, oh my God, I really could kind of, I don't know if it's because I could ease in but the chemistry between the two of them we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I love the fact I'd completely forgotten that the second they walk in the room together, there's no personal space. They're immediately up next to each other, and their chemistry is incredible just from the first moment they're in the room together.
And it's really, but it's at once comfortable and charged. Like there's a comfort, like when they're, you see them dancing at the thing, and just the way that they can't keep their hands off of each other, but it's also. They also are kind of carrying each other sort of around, they really they fall back into this rhythm so fast.
When they're in the radio station, in my younger time when it cut off, I never got to that point yet, but rewatching it this time around, just watching him come in very delicately and her approaching him. And you're right. It's kind of a dance, as you were talking about, but that was a different part of the movie.
Yeah.
One of the things that I thought was pretty interesting is that just immediately she was just like an animal that she wasn't sure how to approach, but at the same time wanted to approach in a way that was, it's like a cat that ran away or something like that.
Well, yeah, and if you described the scene to me, I would have assumed that John Cusack would be the one sort of closing that physical gap between them, but it's her. She's the one that really approaches and sort of gets, closer than that 3-foot bubble. She's the one that sort of immediately sort of moves in on him, which was something I hadn't remembered and was like, oh, excellent. Yes. Yeah. Oh, this is one reason this works so well.
Fun trivia. I was reading on IMDb. That was Minnie Driver's suggestion that she did that. And I don't think John Cusack knew that was going to happen.
Oh, so good.
It was really good.
Well, yeah, because it's like they've been living in each other's dreams they've been living in each other's head for so long, right? It's
literally
clear. Yeah. Yeah. And because before then, that that he says he's been having this recurring dream about her.
What was it? 5 days a week?
Yeah, for 7 years.
Well, yeah.
He told his therapist 10, told her 6.
Yeah, that's
somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I thought that was weird. What is that all? Because I was like, 10. I only noticed the 6 the second time. I was like, wait, why?
I don't know if he rounded up with his therapist or
if he was truly honest with his therapist and decided to pull it back for her. I don't know.
Or the opposite. He was like, well, I didn't want to tell you I've been having it for 10 years, so I told you I'm having it for 6. It just,
Still
or it could be a stumble. Who knows?
It still works, though.
The fact that they're both each other's lost love or the one that got away. I think because often when you have this sort of someone comes home to see their former flame, one of them deliberately broke it off, which he did, but it wasn't about breaking it off with her. It was about him realizing he needed to go.
Yeah.
So they both view each other as sort of the one that got away, the one that still haunts them, so that you have that incredible tension between them as a result that is just
even deeper.
So good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It absolutely. And it's even exactly like you said. In a way, he was the one who ended it because he's the one who fled. But there was no closure. I don't like to use that word too much, but let's be honest, there was no absolutes. And she was even saying I didn't know if you were kidnapped. I didn't know if you were dead, and all of that is real. I mean, show of hands, because it's a podcast. Does anyone have a high school what if lingering in there?
I had one for ages, actually. And then we hung out and I had still, like, I had those things, those feelings, and suddenly, and then I'm like, and then the more and more time we spent together, I was like, oh, actually, it's probably good that we broke up. Like, we're not, like, he's a really cool person, we're still friendly, but it's just, I was like, okay, this couldn't have lasted. It was such a weird moment.
Your
there was
story
all that stuff
is not
there.
a fun movie.
It might actually be a fun movie.
Is he an assassin?
No.
It's been done.
Are
so
you
does it
sure?
No.
matter? Do you have a what if in that time frame?
From high school? No.
Ah, okay.
My policy towards high school is I'm good if I don't see anyone from there again.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I met you after high school. Then.
Well, for me, it's mostly I don't like to see people again who knew me back then. I'm not the same person I was.
Okay.
And I'm not interested in people having, because it's so hard when you meet up with people that knew you when you were younger and they still have that mental image of you in their head. I don't want people to have that image of me. I'd like them to have current, better, more fantastic me.
Yep.
I mean, I have friends, one of my closest friends is from, like, me being 14. But it's a small number, like a very small number.
So 12 then?
It's like
I'm
2
in
or
touch
3.
with one person from high school and I haven't talked to them in a while.
Mine is
social
like,
media?
I talk to her all the time, but it's like 2, but like that's 2 people who knew me then. And I don't, everyone else. I mean, there's like a few people on Facebook, but I'm hardly ever on Facebook, so it doesn't really matter.
I have the same thing. I think I've mentioned this many times. Like my high school self, very unhappy, very like, let's burn this let's burn this relationship down and I'll never see you motherfuckers again. And I'm really good friends with a lot of them now because
Well, you also live near your high school. Like for me, it's very easy.
Yeah, that's
I
easy.
just moved across the country.
I also mellowed out.
I should do that.
Oh yeah, so it's so easy now.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
I run into people a lot that I went to high school with and I
that
keep
would
moving.
be awful.
Huh.
I've worked with people I went to high school with, like, yeah.
What? Oh, this is deep. Why is high school so deep?
It's just so much.
Well, I think movies taught us that this is going to be the most important time of your life.
Yeah.
And they lied to us.
And it's
Here's
the
my
worst
problem
time
with
of your
high
life.
school.
I'm listening.
High school, I was lied to. So as a wee youth, I was a very aggressively huge fan of a certain program called Saved by the Bell that gave me very unrealistic notions of what high school is like.
So we're not going to go to Hawaii and like try to save a long lost tribe of...
We're not going to find oil on our football field.
Why not? Are we going to protest the people because oil for murder?
See, I think I just going like, oh, either high school is the best time of your life or it's the worst time of your life. And I was like, I'm going to go with the worst time of my life.
Yeah.
And I leaned into that. And I'm I made it out the other side, just barely, but there I am.
I made my freshman year of college the best year I could. I was like, I'm getting everything horrible of high school out of me and behind me. I'm changing my whole life. It was great.
Yeah,
It worked?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I had no...
And I found Grosse Pointe Blank, so...
So it all worked out.
It all comes together.
Yeah, I had no... I remember like a college, like a teacher just being like, you'll go through this and then you'll go to college and you will have a great time. And I was like, that sounds accurate. That rings true. And that is exactly what happened.
I wish someone had told me that. That was a piece of information I really needed because so much of our media is, high school is the best time in your life. High school is so great. There needs to be more media about, no, college is the best time in your life.
Yeah.
Screw you, high school.
High school is like, first off, you're having all these problems with your parents. You're having problems with this. You're having problems with like, I mean, there's just, and then you have people who, also the worst part is I didn't experience this because I moved, but like, there are all these people who are like, you're saying, oh, I don't want to deal with high school. Like, I don't want people who knew me in high school. But some people go to high school with people they went to grade school with. So like, It's the same concept. That's also crazy. I don't know. I'm just glad it's over. That's all. No one could pay me to go through that again.
No.
And I didn't even have that terrible of an experience, really. I know people who had a much worse.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Well, I think I was starting to get some of the lies of the movies because, high school movies, there was always the football players and the popular cheerleaders. But for us, I mean, there was a football team, but I also managed to find a good group of people who were just like, yeah, I don't care.
Yes,
so
exactly.
I think do other
that's
things.
when I figured out it was the best or the worst, because I was like, oh, the best are all the people like playing, sports or even being in Model UN.
And also the movie Lean On Me made me freaked out that I was going to get shoved into a locker when I got started in high school. So
I know. I was always really worried about that, and it never happened.
We had very tiny lockers.
Exactly.
You could not fit a human in there unless you were
gonna kill
Martin Blank.
Correct. No, that was just man. Just so
Okay, back to the movie.
Well, no, I was gonna say. Well, the scene.
Thank
where,
you for bringing us back.
Yeah, no. Well, the scene where he is being attacked by one of several assassins on his tail. I forgot about this, and then it all came back to me. The reason that he's being pursued by multiple people is a botched job where he accidentally blew up a dog. And I'm like, oh, poor doggy. And
I'm so glad you didn't see that. Like, that was actually kind of a genius thing that they don't ever show it.
Well, why would they do that? I think just the idea behind it is perfect enough, and also just the telling of the story of just like, no, he that wasn't supposed to happen. Okay, he was a retriever, and that's what happened. And poor dog.
Yeah, and he's like very much more upset about that than accidentally killing other people.
Well, if he's anything like me, that dog is an innocent, and he kept repeating to himself, chances are, if I've showed up at your doorstep, you've done something to bring me here. And the writing, the dialogue, I wrote down that this is prime Cusack for me. As much as I love a lot of his previous movies, I mean, he does a lot of great lines in Say Anything, and of course he goes to the nth degree in High Fidelity. But listening to him to do these things and just going off, and the way he's acting the shit out of this role. And it's so effective for me because I'm just like, this is like I said, this is prime Cusack. This is when, his effect on me is just like number one, because it accumulated through these other movies where he was adorable, and then it just exploded with these types of roles. And he's not pissing me off like when I rewatched High Fidelity. As much as I loved High Fidelity, rewatching this, I was just like embracing his character. Even though he was morally reprehensible, I knew it coming in, even though he's trying to do better.
Well, and the thing I love is there are so many actors that wouldn't be able to pull off this role. He makes you root for him. He is charming in a role that is, inherently unlikable, does bad things, has a very strange, threatening relationship with his therapist. He is a bit neurotic. He's a bit just obsessive. He has so many traits that if it weren't John Cusack would be, a lot creepier, more terrible, but he manages to bring something endearing to just how aggressive and strange this role is.
I really
like it. You really sense a certain, like, his loneliness doesn't feel impenetrable. Like, I think that may be the little, like, what is it? I think in his loneliness in this movie feels, you really acutely sense it. You acutely sense his trouble, his like he made a decision to leave sort of the normal, quote unquote, normal world, right? Like when he disappeared. And then he's like, he comes back and he's trying out all these things. Like, he's always trying out, like, I'm a pet therapist. I'm, like,
I shall couch insurance.
Couches, yeah. And so, and then when he actually says, oh, paid assassin, like, he just ends up always just telling people he's a paid assassin.
Yeah, that was the thing I thought was fascinating, was how often in the end he just went to honesty and no one would believe him.
Everyone just thought it was like a joke. And it's this weird thing where every time it happens, he registers on his face that he's at once relieved and more lonely.
Right.
And so I think, like, that's where that, you feel this great deal of affection, but because you also actually feel like what Minnie Driver says, that he seems kind of fixable, like he seems reachable.
Yep.
Like his loneliness seems penetrable.
And she also apologizes for calling him broken on the radio.
Oh, and that scene is so good too, where they're just sitting in the balcony and there's just like a sweetness to it.
Yeah.
And then they the way they move together, like when they're both like, let's go, and they just stand up at the same time in this very quick way and then run. Like they keep doing this thing where they just move at the same pace.
Yeah.
And it's not a normal pace. It's this weird like hummingbird pace, you know? Like they stop and they're together, very still, and then they move.
Yeah. It's their scenes together are just, even when it's different parts, like they're on the radio together, and then it all of it feels like a dance because it's give and take and give and take and give and take. So it's really interesting. And then she sees him with a pen in a guy's throat. So that's a bummer.
I love that breaking point though, because so much of it beforehand, I think we see so much of how he perceives the situation. A lot of it is him trying to explain himself that I'm in love with you, and all this sort of he's trying to get himself back into her life. And she's engaging with it, she's playing with it, she's having fun with it. But that's the point where she sort of has to deal with,
It's like, oh shit, it's real.
oh, and I feel like that's when she really becomes, in a lot of ways, this very grounded person of, this is how most of us would respond in that situation. Although he does have a very good friend, and a friend that would literally help him dispose of a body.
Yeah.
I just got that, like, they're shoving a person into a locker.
Incinerator.
And, oh yeah, that's true.
The downstairs.
Yeah.
He's very resourceful because
Yeah.
he's tearing down banners.
Oh yeah, he's very fast. I mean, that's the other thing I think is attractive. Like he's clearly very smart. Like he moves very quickly, thinks through things extremely fast.
Improviser. Very resourceful.
Competency is hot.
It is.
It really is.
Competency porn.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and I was wondering, Polina, when you were talking about the first time that you were watching it, if it was similar to America's Sweethearts, there's a tone that's set and then it just kind of changes. So when you're finally the first time I saw this movie, I was not prepared for black comedy because the trailer, of course, is always sanitized. That's the best you can do. So I'm just thinking, oh, this is kind of fun. He's an assassin, but if this happened. And then when you actually, I think I had the same reaction Minnie Driver did, where it's just like, this is very violent. Because, the scene in the beginning where, you got Dan Aykroyding it up and shooting people. It's just like,
so much fun in this movie.
It's Dan Aykroyd. But then when you actually see the very violent version of it, it's just like, oh, this is getting he kills people.
Yeah, because he seems kind of bumbling. Like, honestly, Dan Aykroyd, until you see him in action, it's not like American Sweet, because actually in America's Sweethearts, I was filled with rage for what the movie promised and then didn't deliver. Like, I felt like, in this movie, I see, I don't think I love this movie, as much as you guys love it, but I really did. Especially the second time, I was like, oh, yeah. But there was still a lot. All those things are still there. Like, there's the romance really feels real. The things, there's more there than there was in America's Sweethearts. I don't feel as ripped. Even if the first time where I was like, and it could have been my mood too. I was in a terrible mood.
So between the two, if you want to see a John Cusack movie where Alan Arkin is kind of his advisor and Hank Azaria is kind of up against him, go with Grosse Pointe Blank then.
Yes, just
okay.
If there's any criteria, always pick Grosse Pointe Blank over America's Sweethearts. Anything. There's no reason that you would choose one or the other.
There's also more Cusacks in this movie, so that's always a plus. We got up to 4 this time around.
There were so many Cusacks.
The Cusacks.
They're
missing the dad though, but that's okay. You can't have them all.
And Joan was amazing.
She's so great.
Marcella was the best role.
Okay. So I don't know what outfit that was, where it was just kind of like a black one, and there was this interesting kind of it looked like a grate, but I don't know what it is. All of her outfits are amazing. And also,
wait, it looked like a grate?
I don't know. It looked like there was some strange beading on the shirt, and it was just, I don't know. I like the top a lot.
Which scene was it?
The earlier ones. I don't know. I think when he first comes back to the office.
Oh, is it like it had kind of a corset thing going on? Yeah.
I also had a very deep appreciation for when she was in the evening gown.
Yeah.
And she's talking and screaming at the people about ammo and then flips it over. It's a base, okay? The carrots and the onions are just the base for the soup.
It's not going to be boring.
You're going to add chicken. It's like, you go, Joan.
I have to say, and I love that she does show up in these ridiculous outfits to a job where there's nobody else in the office.
He showed up eventually.
Yeah, but like, you know, does she need to do that? But it's just like, I don't know, it just makes it even more charming.
But she's also a professional because she's got all the information for him. She's setting up the stuff. And in fact, I came up with the future, and then I realized, well, that future doesn't work because I don't know if Marcella will be in the future as well. So I can't pin all of her abilities onto him, but that'll come later.
Yes.
That will come later. All right. Well, here's an interesting question for you. It's not an interesting question. We ask this in all of our episodes.
And yet it's interesting every time.
It's interesting because now we get to ask our lovely guest instead of just like me prodding Polina. Polina, your movie. What do you want?
She's poking me. You don't know that because it's a podcast, but if it was a vlog.
And now they know.
Now they know.
Okay. So in this particular instance, we have some past to work with, but you know, Debbie, Martin, when did they fall in love?
I mean, we don't really get to see it because it happened in high school beforehand.
Did it?
I think it did.
Okay, see, that's...
Although I think when he walks into her radio station and she goes up and kisses him, like she falls in love again.
Okay. I like that. I like that thought. How about him? Is it also the same thing? Did it ever go away?
I don't think it did for him, although with him it's hard because love and obsession for him are very mixed. Yeah, for her, I think she, you know, may have easily fallen out of love during that time, but she saw him again.
Yep.
She moved into his space and she just, everything snapped back in.
Okay. Interesting. So for him, both high school, but she snapped back in. I mean, she did get married.
Yeah.
And then divorced while, you know, in that 10-year span. I mean,
yeah, she divorced him because she's like, I once was with John Cusack. I can do better.
That is a high bar.
Did she say that? But it's true. It would be hard to get over.
That's a high bar right there.
Yeah, I think she got over him, but then the second she saw him again, I mean, that all rushed back and
it's a flood.
With him, I think he was in love with her the whole time, but I think there's definitely a couple points in the movie, you know, both when she, you know, when he walks in and she kisses him, I think is a big moment. And I do also, there's the moment where they have, where they're at the reunion and she's holding the baby then and he's taking a picture and you can just see this sort of affection in him that he's like, I need to capture this.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely a change in sort of him going from, this is someone I've been obsessed with for the last 10 years, you know, that was this person I was obsessed with when I was dating in high school, to this is a person I want to move forward with.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's. I also like that he brought out the little spy
I was going to
camera.
say, oh my God. Like the spy camera was so genius. I loved that.
It was such a good touch.
Yeah.
It worked out just, again, icing on the hilarity.
How about you?
Me, as much as it doesn't sound, it's not great content, but I agree with a lot of what you said. This happened in high school. The only thing is that like he fell in love with her, she fell in love with him in the high school time that we never saw, that was only alluded to. What's difficult about that though is with him coming back and him having the dreams consistently, he never stopped loving her, but that's strange because it's like the high school version of love where you have a lot more living to do in order for it to just kind of morph into something where people don't say, oh, that's puppy love and that's this love and that's this love. I don't know their full dating backstory. I know he stood her up at prom, but were they like dating? Were they together for a while?
Everyone referred to them as being together. Like it was not surprising to anyone. So I think they were that couple in school. Like I assumed they'd gotten together like
like
in their
sophomore year.
Yeah, sophomore year.
Okay.
They maybe dated someone else
I'm giving
beforehand.
my thing away.
But yeah, like they'd been there, the couple that was together for most of high school. That was just like that couple. You know, those two people that have been together forever.
Got it. No,
High school forever.
I'm imagining that actual couple from my own graduating class right now. So gotcha. Okay, so yes, they're there. I think they had theirs. I think he maintained it. So I think you're correct. I think she lost it. I think, you know, she grew up and she went through. I mean, she did manage to, you know, meet someone else, get married. In the coming back, though, what you were just saying about seeing somebody that you knew in high school and falling back into those old rhythms, I believe her. Actually, that may have been what I thought when you said that. So you were saying you see somebody from high school, know the fabulous me now, not the person I was in high school. I was thinking I fall back into old rhythms when I see people from high school. And I find myself like making jokes that I wouldn't bother to do now because it's like, that's that's what I was.
Yeah.
So now I'm expecting that kind of thing to be something that needs to come out of me because this is how they know me. And I think she fell into that rhythm, but I don't think it was real. I think it was just kind of like a reflex. And so my concern about that is that the whole time we're watching like the movie, I don't think she falls back in love with him. I think she's just doing a rhythm of expectation that she has on herself, but also easy to do because this is somebody that she used to have a real connection to. And so this is what feels natural. So therefore that's what she's doing.
I can buy that.
Oh, thank you. Yay. Didn't want to upset you.
I see it a little, I mean, I think in general, like we're similar, but I think I see it a little different. So when he goes to visit her she's staying in her father's house because her house burned down on Devil's Night, which we used to call I'm assuming it's the same as like Mischief Night in New Jersey, or the Middle Atlantic states where such a thing happens.
Yeah, we don't have any of those.
You
here,
guys don't
so
have
it's
that.
all wild to me.
But it's basically like the night. It's usually for us. It was I think the night before Halloween, and basically it was like just like pranks. That's when you got all the pranks out.
I'm only aware of this because of American Horror Story.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't watch because I'm terrified of horror movies, but because I'm a wimp and I have nightmares. And so I anyway, join us for another episode of Felina's Traumas. So I felt like anyway, he comes in, like he kind of just shows up at her doorstep and she's in the same bedroom that she was in this Grosse Pointe, like that's a nice suburb. It's like the house is huge.
Yep. That's a good nice house right there.
Almost like she has her own patio, like a widow's walk or something. And he goes up and she comes in, and they come in, and you see a bit of their high school relationship because, for one, he's like, is that the bed? Is that your bed? Is it the same mattress? And they call it like the magic carpet, and they do it in such a way that's like it's not winky. It's not that thing of like high school sex, like we had sex. It was like very like that thing of discovering sex with somebody that you're that into, but I'm going to assume that they discovered it together, and they got to really like with somebody that they really loved and trusted. And you really see that. Like, I agree. I mean, there's the quality of 17-year-old love, like the love that I felt for the guy that I met. I genuinely was in love. But it's not the same. It's not the same. Like, it's
not to make it sad, but it's a more informed love when you get older.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, definitely. And I think like, and I have like, I could just have more to offer just as a person to have a life with than I had then, because you're just so kind of in your own space, your own head, and what you know.
You mean like a 401k?
Yeah. Oh God, don't make. I'm really stressed out about my whole 401k situation.
Sorry. But that's what Sean wants out of your love.
Oh God, I hope not.
He loves you too, but hey, retirement savings.
I think my cooking is really
okay. That's
helpful.
That's better.
And plus, I'm probably I don't know. Anyway, we'll have to ask him that when we have him on the podcast. Why is Polina not a total waste of space? So anyway, but I just feel like when I saw that, that thing, and then he's like, what do you guys want to, basically she's like, well, do you want to, can you do the airplane thing? Mm-hmm. And this is clearly a thing that they've just did in their relationship. And it's so like sweet and innocent and fun. And then the fact that they instantly like fall back into this, like, he puts his feet in the perfect, place on her stomach. And mm-hmm. he, it was really lovely. So I really think that the connection they had was genuine love. Like, I don't think it was like, we talked about 16 Candles last time, and it was mm-hmm. like, that's a crush. That's not love. But this, like, I think that for the kind of love that you can have at 17, they genuinely had it. They were interested in each other. They had a physical connection that was like not just based on just being, you know, a hormonal teenager.
There was the point in the nurse's office where he says, you know, I forget which of us gets tied up.
Yeah, exactly. So there's definitely a thing where they explore. This was like a joyous thing of discovery because they got to do it together. Like even their kind of sex life. Because, you know, sex is often treated as this, like, you know, it's kind of a joke or it's sort of you know, like it's not taboo, but it's like always a joke. It's always a little like, but they clearly did it. They got to explore that together. So that was really lovely. And they knew each other. I think that they did stay in love with that whole time. And I think especially like when someone just disappears, the hold that they have on your psyche is insane. I mean, the fact that you don't get to see them like, you know, mess up or become weird or become like they have a hold on your psyche. So I don't think she ever fell out of love, which is why I think she was like, I'm in a, like, as just a grown ass woman, I kind of can't live in you know, I can't live in this, he's going to come back. Because she probably spent 5 or 6 years and was like, when she got married, she was like, I need to put this down. And then it was like cognitive behavioral therapy to like put it down. But then the minute he comes back, it comes back. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, yes, they fell in love obviously off camera, but I think that they definitely like all that stuff was there with a layer of, you know, like a layer of real sort of adultness. But also I feel like this is where I sort of vary a little bit from you. I really think that she comes back and she isn't sure. She really genuinely really see that she isn't sure. And she has to protect herself and stay in control of the situation. I think it's and the reason that she does that is because of how fast it all comes back. And she's obviously usually so smooth verbally. I mean, she has this radio show. Mm-hmm. You start out, you see her talk, and she's very smooth. And it's the first time that she's like speechless. Because she's like, this is a song by the Specials. It's a Specials. It's a song. You know, like she just kind of loses it, and I think that's an interesting sign.
Well, yeah, and I think you have to imagine that she pictured what him coming back would look like early on. That she imagined what it would be like if he came back, and him sort of walking in 10 years later and awkwardly talking like. Sort of like nothing happened, but also it did, and not really knowing what to say isn't, you know, him coming back with a big story or him coming back and apologizing or any of the things that she probably imagined happening.
Exactly.
It's weird and strange, and how do you deal with that? Yeah. This is the situation you didn't prepare for.
Exactly. Like how many times has she played this idea in her head?
And when the callers come in, you know, her anger about it comes out as well. And I think they had a conversation about it later of just like, you know, oh yeah, it's like she was very pleased with herself that this is a guy who hurt her, so she got to put him on the spot as she did. And who doesn't have that little like post high school somebody who hurt you, you get to get them back later.
So one of the hardest things I had a hard time reconciling, and because you guys have seen this movie, you know, more times than I did, or probably thought about it more, just because of time. He doesn't want to go. So originally, he is not going to go to this reunion at all.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So and there's a bunch of circumstances, some of which I think he decides he wants to, but some of them are just like because of his job. Like he gets a hit. That is, he gets assigned a hit that is, you know, that is in Grosse Pointe Blank or Grosse Pointe. And how do you reconcile that like, here's this chance to go back and he doesn't want to take it until like he's kind of forced to?
Well, the situation that he left for in the first place is still true. I mean, he left because he really wanted to kill someone and knew it was best that he left. Mm-hmm. He's still a hired killer. You know, he knows that if he goes back, he's not going to be able to help himself. He's going to go see her.
Yeah.
And that's going to force a change. And I think while he's obviously sort of at his end with his career, you know, you can be at the end of something and not sure that you really want to embrace that level of change, because he knows if he goes back, he's going to go see her. He's not going to be able to stop himself from going to see her right away. And that's a big commitment, because then he'll, you know, be shot down by her or be not shot down by her. But one way or the other, you know, he's been dreaming about her for 6 years or 10 years, depending what scene is true. And this might, you know, it's committing to something when he's been living this kind of same life for a long time.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah, because I was like, wait, but if he, that makes sense.
And especially with him being in like such a place of confusion about himself, you know, if he sees her, he's going to have to commit to
Something.
either I'm going to keep doing this forever, or I'm going to have to make a change.
Right. And it's also with the help of his therapist at the time. It's just like, do I go? Do I not go? And I think he was just trying to get him out the door. But he says, like, go do this reunion thing. Get out of my office.
That's helpful.
Something that I think would actually kind of grow to your point, Polina, about Debbie and her feelings towards him. I thought the scene where after she sees the body being shoved, or actually, no, she sees the body and she comes back to his room, and the first thing out of her mouth was just asking John Cusack's character, he was going to kill you, right? It's like instantly trying to justify the whole thing. Like, you know, so part of that is it wasn't just, you know, yelling or screaming or anything like that, but just instantly going to the whole, like, this was self-defense, right? Which it was.
Well,
but
and she's trying to make, she's trying to make sense of a lot, right? I mean, it's like the day before he shows up at her place of work in the middle of a radio show. And now they've had sex, and they have, you know, basically they're like, he's like, let's give this a go. Like, let's go somewhere and just figure it out. And there he is, like, and now suddenly it's like very real, and she's trying to put this, you know, all the building blocks together in her head to, like, you know, to put all the puzzle pieces in a way that makes sense. And like, you know, like, wait, what information do I even need to do that?
Yeah, and then she doesn't get any break, because then she immediately goes to, oh, there are assassins after my father now.
Yeah.
And he's now trying to protect us. So I'm also now in a situation where I have a gun and I will shoot someone. I was shooting at that door the second it opened.
true.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm now watching him covered in blood, but to defend me and my father. So she's going to have a good deal of PTSD after this.
Yeah.
But I think that's one thing that makes the end so interesting, where she says, forget the hell about forgiving and just accept and get the hell out of town.
Yeah.
That, you know, maybe reconciling it is accepting that there's going to be some things you can't reconcile. This is just sort of how things are, and figure you're going to take it or you're going to leave it.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. The first time I saw the movie, I was frustrated by the way things got cleaned, that it ended, because like I feel like this is a lot of like running. It's like they put all these, you know, roadblocks that are kind of ridiculous. In this case, they're quite real. So you put all these things in that are kind of ridiculous, and then suddenly in the last like 15 minutes, all of those obstacles get like lifted one at a time, and everything's like super easy suddenly when it was really hard before. And like,
To be fair, those obstacles were humans, and he killed them.
exactly, like in this case they're real, but I have this, but sometimes I just get frustrated, because I'm like I feel a little like ripped out, like, okay, you've forced me to believe in these crazy obstacles, like in many movies. This one, like, they're real obstacles, right? And then suddenly it felt very sudden. Like, it felt very like, okay, well, now we've hit our running time. Like, let's just put them in a car and make them go away. But actually the second time I saw it, like, I felt like, you know, you were saying it's two different movies who are hanging out with each other. And I think that's really well put, because I think the first time I felt like there were two different movies spliced together. But like that time I was like, oh, there's an emotional through line that makes the ending the second time much less frustrating for me. It made a lot more sense.
And I think they do sort of slowly move it so that all of these people are physically getting closer and closer to him throughout the movie, that they do all converge there.
Yeah.
But apparently they also didn't totally know how they wanted to end this. Apparently they filmed a bunch of different endings for this.
Really?
Because they were sort of trying to figure out where they what note they wanted to end it on.
Yeah.
So they filmed a couple different things to try and sort it out. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I just remember reading in a couple articles that they had filmed several different things, so they were sort of trying to sort that out, and this was the one that they hit on that felt the best.
Interesting. I think it also has a nice parallel with Say Anything, where I remember watching that movie for the first time, and it had been overhyped for me, so I didn't fall in love with it the same way a lot of people did. And just the fact that, okay, their end is they're together and they're on their way, and this is the exact same ending. And in both instances, they were not satisfying, but at the same time,
And you've heard people describe this as the sequel to Say Anything, right?
I haven't. And actually, you know what I have read is that the movie War Inc. is the continuation.
Unofficial sequel to
Yeah,
this,
the
yeah.
unofficial. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
So
read that
I
too.
did not read that, but it's
Well, it's kind of just, it's not an official thing. It's just a joke people have made that,
Yeah,
you know,
it's a pretty good one.
You look at the character and Say Anything, and
Yeah.
that's Lloyd's this is kind of his directionless. Like, this is one way it could have ended.
Yep.
Well, because he's like, he's not selling anything that someone, like that whole quote that he says in Say Anything.
Yeah, I feel
He's
like-
sort of succeeded in a weird way. He's like, okay, he's become a mercenary.
I feel like, Lloyd's sequel is Martin Blank, and sort of the humor sequel to Better Off Dead is this movie. I feel like this is like the weird, darker humor version of Better Off Dead.
That does make more sense. Although, okay, I'm trying to imagine like Diane Franklin superimposed as to Minnie Driver, and I'm trying to work it all out.
It's a tough transition, but
I can't see I can't see Lloyd getting that,
I think
snapping.
Lloyd is too sensitive
Yeah.
to kills. That's why that thing falls
It didn't work because with Say Anything, you saw the graduation, so therefore he hadn't run yet.
Yes.
Or it's the alternate universe. So you know how Minnie Driver's father describes what he thought that Martin would be doing, that he'd be, this hippie wandering, and maybe that's where Lloyd ended up. Maybe
Yeah.
Lloyd is like the alternate universe that Debbie's father thought he would live.
Oh wow. Okay, I'm gonna need a minute on that.
Sorry, I like to have a cohesive, I want the John Cusack cinematic universe. Like, they're all connected somehow.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, that works.
I feel like they're connected because of me.
Oh, I just had
And
a
they're
thing.
like and
I'm gonna run with that. Go on. All right, go ahead.
Oh no, that's all I got.
No. Okay. Ooh. Okay. So then, can I segue then?
Yes.
What happens next? Since all we saw was them in a car, what happened next? What happens next?
Two John Cusacks diverged in a yellow wood. I have two directions I can go on this, because the big struggle for me with their relationship is they knew each other in high school. They loved each other in high school.
Yeah.
They don't know each other
Yeah.
now. They are strangers to each other.
Correct.
So I feel like this hinges on a really good therapist. Not his current therapist.
No.
But I think the fact that when
Who
you...
seems like a really good therapist if he wasn't terrified of him.
He is a good therapist.
But I feel like you have like a combination of Martin Blank's appreciation for therapy, his kind of obsessive need with it, and how much, when you heard the conversations with a therapist, how much he cared.
Yeah.
So you have someone that wants and appreciates therapy, and then you have Debbie, who I think is grounded enough to be like, no, we can't have a therapist that is terrified of you. Like, that's not going to work. Let's do therapy like normal people. I think if they both get in therapy, both individual therapy and couples therapy, they can make it work, because they both need to work out their own issues. She has had a long few days, probably has some PTSD from this. He has a lot going on. I think a mediator to help them communicate. I think if they get therapy together, it would help a lot. Because the thing is, like, we don't know if they'll be in love, because it's
Yeah,
really
how do
about
you- how
when
do
they
they-
have to get to know each other together. But my hope is they're in a car together, they're driving off together. Maybe they'll find that that the people they are now are connected and still have something between them, and they can fall in love again. I think them falling in love again is necessary for them to stay together.
Absolutely.
I think they're both... I think they both have the potential for it. I think we've seen both of them as people that are fun and weird and have their own, issues. And I think if they have baggage that matches, you never know, it might work out. So I'm optimistic, but the fact they don't really know each other, I mean, there's a lot of ways it could fall apart, but I'm just rooting for those kids. I want them to go drive off somewhere, have a nice vacation in a town neither of them know, and be like, we both don't know each other. We're in a town we don't know. Let's get to know each other and like wander around a weird town, like find a weird tourist town, like go to some weird coastal tourist town and just be weird and awkward together, have a lot of brunch, and just try talking. And because he's been in this movie fairly honest with her as they go through things.
Yes.
And I think they both have a willingness to communicate that I think will be very helpful to them if they want to move forward together. And I'm rooting for that.
That is an excellent observation about his honesty and the fact that he's just very open to therapy. He just happens to have this little hiccup of, his therapist will be required to report any crimes.
But he's not going to do crimes anymore, so they're fine. No more crimes.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so he's out. Like, you don't think he's going to go back in?
I don't think he is, because I don't think he has the taste for it anymore. I think that if he does go back in, it will end poorly, because he will mess up in a way that will not end well for him. Mm-hmm. That's the darkest timeline.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
She goes back home and he botches his next job.
I don't think she can handle it. Like, no. I think she
already couldn't.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think it's like, anyway.
I think the big danger with it is, he is very obsessive, and sort of he went into this killing. And so if he tries to use her as a replacement for like a life, that's not going to work out. No. So he needs to find a way to sort of have his own self and existence that is not entirely dependent on her.
Okay. Okay. I like that a lot. I like yours a lot.
But I'm still rooting for them, and I feel like the fact that I find them deeply romantic is why I'm single in my 30s.
No. You hold on to
I'm like, this is love, Hitman and the girl that he loved in high school coming back together after 10 years. That's what love looks like.
That is love right there, man. No judgment on the whole killing of people thing. She can judge him because that's
they're so
that's
happy
their story.
Together. They enjoy each other. Like, what's not love about that?
Murder?
You gotta take the smooth or the rough.
If you're gonna date a guy like John Cusack, you're gonna have to put up with something.
There's gonna be baggage.
There's a price.
A less John Cusack-y guy might leave his towels around or not do the laundry. John Cusack, you got to put up with a higher threshold of
I still feel
problems.
Like the murder
socks
would
and towels.
Be hard. Yeah, socks and towels.
Again, morally flexible over here.
Yeah.
So
he's so troubled by the murder though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
he was like really like,
feelings.
you know what? I do it. We don't talk about it. But I still feel like I don't know. Anyway, so what's
and
yours?
he's not going to
What's
murder
yours?
anymore. He's done with murders.
Done with the murdering.
He's done with murdering. So
what's yours?
Well, if I can just kind of grasp onto your done with murders thing.
Please grasp.
I gripped at the whole what happens to their future. And I said, under no circumstances is this going to be one of those things where they go off, he gets out of the life, but of course, he has so much baggage, someone's going to come looking for him. And of course, they're going to get her when they mean to get him. And she's going to get in the fridge because that's going to be his thing where he comes back, he was out of the life. But no. I said under no circumstances.
Wow.
I said under no circumstances are they going to Jason Bourne this bullshit.
No.
Good.
Spoiler. So I said, no, we've already done that bullshit. We're not doing that. So under no circumstances is Debbie and her wonderfulness going to be used as a catalyst for him to get back into the business. So I crossed through that. I had alluded to this earlier when I said that Marcella and her skills, I was thinking that he's going to do this life where he was able to harness his abilities in his current, his former job and use those into some other type of contract work where the skills are used. There's just not assassination taking place. So, there could be gathering of information for people, kind of some corporate workings, for information on people. But then it occurred to me as we were talking, no, that was Marcella. She had all the intel. So he had a good a way of getting information through her. Yeah, exactly. And I love the fact that when she's tearing down the entire building and setting all of the files on fire.
And he knew that this was going to happen before, which is a weird detail.
Well,
that's surprising.
I'm pretty sure you're going to need to burn down the building literally when you have all this. These are the people we killed. This is called evidence, Polina, and it's something that they use to incriminate.
No, but he knew that
people.
They were going to that this was when they were going to shut down the building because he left all that money, or maybe he had that money for a long time.
Well, I think no, it's a contingency plan. All assassins have contingency plans, Polina.
I guess I don't know enough.
You need to watch more.
That's why I don't date Cusack. Yeah, I do need to watch less movies where people just talk to each other and more assassin movies.
I love that he left her all that money.
One of my favorite lines in it is just her, all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the best.
Because she's like doing all the things, but then she's probably also like, oh man, I was gonna, I shouldn't have bought tickets to Coachella.
Well, and he says, like, I'm gonna come find you.
Yeah.
So they could set up a firm together.
Yes, exactly. But
sorry, did I step on you?
No, not at all. And I was just thinking, well, he said he'll come find her, and I absolutely buy that. But here's where I'm going with this, and it all came together thanks to your observations, and Polina was also here. So I love you.
I was here. I haven't even gotten. Maybe my observations would have also helped.
No, let me finish. Kelly said you'd like to believe that all the Cusack movies are intertwined somehow. So he is able to become, better versions of what Hank Azaria and I don't remember the other person, but the two DEA people who are following John Cusack the whole time. So after he's done killing, they can kill him because that's how it works. That's how the government will take it down. He is going to get a real license to kill from the government, but he's not going to use it because he has this new respect for life, but he has all these skills and he has all these abilities. So he's going to use that to work his way up to become Vince Larkin from Con Air.
Whoa.
You're welcome. He's going to be there. He's going to use his abilities to see other convicts. He's going to use his mind to understand their minds. And he's going to use it. Oh my God, no, this sounds better. He's going to be Vince Larkin, but he's pretty much going to be Leonardo DiCaprio from Catch Me If You Can, where he's going to use his behind-the-scenes assassin knowledge to help figure out the actions of other assassins and use that for the law enforcement side of it.
What happens to them?
What happens to them? You mean like Nicolas Cage in Con Air?
No.
Because we can't. Okay.
We can't spoil that movie, and I have not seen it.
We could totally spoil that movie because the whole time in Con Air, here's what's happening.
It's okay. No, what is happening? Back to romance.
Well,
it's Friday night.
Well, no, more secret Con Air episode.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what's it though. Is
that's
that
for Patreon fans?
The whole time in Con Air, he's like using his abilities and he's like rushing through and trying to save the day. And the whole time, at the end of Con Air, he's very happy that. Spoiler. Okay, fine. I won't spoil Con Air for you. At the end of the day,
I'm not going to go see it.
He does not die at the end of Con Air, is what I'm getting at.
Okay.
And at the end of that day, he's going to come home to Debbie.
Aww.
And they'll be there because he's managed to, stealing your idea, they've worked it out in therapy, and he's become a person who's able to channel his abilities and maybe get a little bit of, he's trying to make up for the quote unquote wrongs of that. And he comes home and he's with Debbie and they're together and they're living a life where he just happens to be in law enforcement now. It changed from my original idea.
Yeah.
My original idea was not
the Con Air thing.
No, not the Con Air thing. No, that came through right now. My original idea was she was going to leave him because she cannot deal with this. Yeah. But I didn't really have a good thing for him because it could have one of two things had happened. He becomes obsessed with her, or he just goes back to the life, but he doesn't want to, so that causes its own crisis. He is Vince Larkin now, and those crazy kids have made it because he's now able to channel it this way, and she's able to live her life, and they're together.
I'm glad I was able to help redirect this to a happy ending.
Yeah. Nice. I like it.
That was me.
So this is my hardest one. This is the hardest one we've ever done for me. The after. This is so difficult.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, I don't know if that's true, but okay.
I mean, for me, this is the one that I had. There were two, it was I have these two clear things. Kind of believe in, the one that's more negative, and I don't want to. But this one was But this is kind of where I'm decided to go after, listening to you guys. And, because I had, three, and neither of them felt satisfying. This is where I'm going to go.
There's many roads not traveled by.
Yeah, well, it's just a difficult because part of me is it is weird and it is very sudden, and there's just too many things to unpack for them and for him. They both have they have to piece together so much of their lives that just feels overwhelming. But to make a decision about this, but I have a hard time with decisions. So here we are. I think they're going to. They're going to try this whole thing out of They're going to go away. I think the therapy is an excellent idea. I think that I don't know if they're going to go to like a tourist town. I think they're going to go on like the Great American Road Trip.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
they're going to go to a weird little town. So they'll probably hit a Great America, because why wouldn't you?
So they're going to Vallejo,
they
California.
Might go to Vallejo. Well, I mean, there's like several Great Americas between here and Detroit.
No, I'm sorry, that's Six Flags. Go on, I interrupted.
Yeah. There's probably 15 Great Americas between here and California. Anyway, he is and after that kind of like sort of they do that for a few months, like they both have to get back to their lives, or they have to figure out the next phase of their lives. And I think that's where it's going to be super tricky. Like, I think that they're going to go back to Grosse Pointe just because he doesn't know where else to go for a little while. And I think that's where things are going to sour for a little bit, and he's going to be struggling because he needs to make a huge a much bigger lifestyle and paradigm shift than she does. And I think she's going to become very impatient with him. And then I think that what will happen is they will break up, and I think that he will actually find his way into basically I think government hacking. I think he's going to work for he's going to like either with the CIA sort of organizing things, or the NSA. I think they're going to quietly get him back into the fold. There's some logistics there that I don't thoroughly understand, that actually, even as I say it, I'm like, but then what about this and this? But, whatever. It's a podcast. It's not real life. And I think that as he starts really being able to use his intellect and his very sharp organizational abilities to and his way of kind of visualizing problems. I think he's got a really interesting way of visualizing problems. Like, he will, they will find their way back to each other. I don't think that their separation is going to be very long. I think that once he finds a purpose, because I think that's where she's going to get impatient, is when he doesn't have a purpose. And it's just sort of, I think he will sort of go through a wallowing period after they go, back from this kind of, Great American Road Trip. And I think that I don't think they're going to settle there. I think there's too much. I think you're right. It's it's a little too weird. But I think that I think she will keep using, hopefully she'll keep using radio or some sort of, her love of music, and find a way to have that love of music to, and find a career with that. I think that, because there has to be a way that he gets out of that world that is safe, because it's not like quitting a job, and it's a pretty major thing, though. So I think they're gonna make it. I don't know. I'm trying to think if I see them growing old together, but I think they have such a they understand each other on some sort of very fundamental, it's kind of cellular level. They have such a similar. I think they enjoy the same things, and I think they have such a similar, sense of humor. I think they make each other laugh, and I don't think they're going to find anyone like that. And I think that's what I think they will get to. But I think there will be a period of difficulty, and I think maybe the therapy is an excellent idea when they get back together. I totally agree. I think that's the only way. I mean, I just feel it's too much to unpack, and there's too much in each other's way. The other thing is, I think that in order for them to survive together, he is going to have to give some space to her anger for disappearing. Because in his mind, the reasons that he left are very good, but when you hear them, and maybe this is the problem with seeing this sort of, as seeing this for the first time, that it's, not being either a teenager or, in my early 20s, I think because I've just noticed this with rewatching these movies, is like, it feels actually quite selfish. Like, his reason, though I totally get why he left, the fact that he did not contact anyone, including his mom, like, he sent her money, but his mother is, like, not well. And the fact that he just disappears from her for 10 years, like, it's very self-involved. And I think, like, that's where that whole thing is going to sour. And I think him finding an outlet, you know, and sort of a purpose, he's going to re-find a purpose in, you know, some of this work of solving problems, and hopefully being, you know, catching the bad guys, is going to, it's going to, you know, it's going to reconnect him. I do, you know, I think clearly now he does want a kid. Like, I think that is maybe in their future, but that's what I think. Like, I think that he's going to have to give a lot of space to her anger about just disappearing.
I know, I'm angry.
Yeah, I know, 10 years of no Cusack.
Yeah, and I think I think you're completely right on that's going to come up at some point. At some point, her anger is going to appear. I do think he's able to give that space. I do think he's someone that would sort of sit there and accept that anger.
I mean, when she slaps him, he's like, he's not like, why did you do that? He's like, okay.
Although there seemed to be something very playful and sexual in that.
Yeah, there was definitely, yeah, that's true. But yeah, at one point it's not going to be playful and sexual.
Yeah, and I think he's someone that, especially given his extensive like feelings about therapy, he would understand needing that space. But I think you're really right that they might need a period where they're split up, because he's going to rely so much on her, and he's going to need to have his own thing outside of her in order for her to be happy with him.
Yes. Because, like, can you imagine? Yeah, so they go this thing, they really get to know each other. They really talk about each other. They discover things together.
Yep.
You know, they discover little weird towns. They have, you know, barbecue in Texas, whatever.
They have so much time in the car just to talk.
Yes.
Yeah, filling some...
And, like, that's where you can have a lot of that anger come out. I mean, you know, road trips with someone that are long are stressful.
Yes.
All the emotions come out.
Exactly.
Traveling,
And there's
absolutely.
something to, like, the pace of the talking, too, of, like, that you're quiet. And you can be quiet for 2 hours, and then you can talk for 5 hours. You know, like, there's a certain pace, and I think that is, like, I think he's right. A road trip is the perfect thing. And you know, they're gonna go, like, they're gonna go and listen to music in Austin, and, you know, like, it's gonna be great. It sounds great. I want to go.
I think that's also going to make the hard part when they come back to Grosse Pointe, is because
Real life.
then it's real life, and then it's also not just real life, but it's a place that you have a lot of memories, you have a lot of weight. I can imagine him, like, starting out by even working for her dad.
Yeah.
And just either, like, as personal security, or, you know, they've had that conversation about them both having a cutthroat way of things. So I could see her dad offering, you know, hey, since I've done this, you know, testimony, I do have some threats. Do you want to be my personal security till you figure out what you're doing?
Yeah.
I could see, you know, they also had that, like, local security guy. I could see him trying out, like, some sort of local security and being like, oh, I hate this.
Well,
I could
that's
see
the
him
thing.
attempting
Yeah,
to fit his skills
exactly.
and not being good at it.
Yeah, and there's going to be and in a weird way, like, that it's not, I mean, he doesn't, like, kill him, but, like, it's the fact that it's so big. You know, the problems you're solving are so big and final. It, like, that kind of stuff is, he's going to go through a period of being kind of insufferably depressed.
Yeah.
Well, we all do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, it's going to come at a time where it's a bad time.
Did you cover what it is that you wanted to say
Yeah,
about what
go ahead.
happened? Because I have to amend mine. It when you were talking about, you know, he's going to have kids, or, you know, the therapy thing, how he's very mindful about these things. Something that I forgot to mention, he's going to go back for his cat.
Yes.
There it is. Yes. And he also doesn't know if it's a he or she, because he wants to respect the cat's privacy. So he's very mindful about these things. The cat will be retrieved.
Oh, I love that. Yes, this is very important.
That matters.
Actually, I think the cat is going to go to Joan.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
The cat is going to go to Joan.
Marcella.
To Marcella, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said the cat's going to go to jail.
Oh, no.
Hence,
I was like, it's not that weird. It's Joan. It's his sister.
You said Joan. Speak up, Polina.
I can see. So yeah, they go on a road trip, and Joan takes care of the cat until he gets back, and he realizes like, you love this cat so much.
Oh.
You know, if
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think it'll find his way back. But I think, the cat has to be taken care of in the meantime. And I think, like Marcella's going to do it.
either way, either Marcella gets the cat or he goes back for the cat. As long as the cat is happy, I'm happy.
Yeah, the cat's going to be okay.
The cat's accounted for, so we covered everything.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Good
I think
stuff.
We've done it.
All right. There it is. Cusack Run.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna. We just got to the finish line.
Bittersweet.
No, well, okay, yeah.
So when are you starting your next Cusack Run?
Approximately next year.
Yeah.
We would love to have you back.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to talk about Cusack.
Okay. What's the next one? Which other Cusack?
Don't put her on the spot.
There's a few options.
Okay.
I'll send you my top 10.
Yes.
Ooh. So Cusack Run.
I keep
lap
wanting
8.
to do Bullets Over Broadway, which I have complicated feelings about. But.
I've never actually seen that one.
Oh my God.
I'll talk to you about it off mic.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's one of those I watched it for John Cusack movies.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there it is. Cusack Run. Kelly, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Throwback Bookstack. My friend Emily and I get together every couple weeks, and we reread the books of our childhood and re-examine them as adults. Kind of like this, but with books.
I know.
Exactly.
It's so genius.
Turns out
so genius.
It turns out the book's a little bit more messed up than we remembered.
Oh my God. So many people die in children's books.
Yep.
It's basically this movie,
Wow.
but with elephants.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah. You'll find us on, all of your podcasting apps.
Yeah.
So more animals die in these children's books than do in this movie.
Let
But
me
they
tell
only
you
talk-
about James and the Giant Peach.
I was listening, and man, I was like, yeah, that's dark.
People are dead on page 1.
Yeah. And in a brutal way.
Yeah.
So you would recommend them watch Grosse Pointe Blank than read James and the Giant Peach?
Yes, I think Grosse Pointe Blank is much more child-friendly.
Ah. I accept your offer. Yep.
I want to reread James and the Giant Peach.
Well,
I'll take both. Just do both. My God.
It's a good quick read.
It's a rainy weekend. You could do both.
Are you okay?
I'm good.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you very much. You can find us on Twitter at HEAMCast.
HEAMCAST.
Yeah, please follow us there. We're on Facebook at Happily Ever Aftermath. You can also find us on Instagram.
Yeah, I know. We're slowly, very slowly and terribly ramping up our Instagram presence. but-
Okay, don't say that because you're running the Instagram.
I
You're
am.
doing an excellent job.
I
this-
missed the actually posting when we put out an actual podcast.
Which is also me trying to tell the listeners, it's Polina doing it. I'm on top of it, people.
I mean, to be fair, Instagram was down that day, but still, I probably could have picked it up the next day.
How about instead of defending your Instagram skills, you
I
let-
just actually do a good job.
No, I was going to say, fine, I'm going to take the mic now. We will let them know what our next next movie we're covering
Yes.
is Josie and the Pussycats.
Oh my God. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we will have a special guest, Justine from The Cutaways, joining us.
Yay.
Yep, so
She's
I love
amazing.
this.
she
Yes.
is fantastic
so
and the
lovely.
best, and it's just going to be awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
She's got great hair.
so there it is. Cusack Run out, but we'll be back.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We
This is not the
promise.
end.
Never.
This is not the end.
Nope. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right.